from getting a PhD from Carnegie Mellon University to being the president of Harrisburg University.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate the opportunity to chat today, and look forward to it. Yes, my mother introduces me as, here's Eric, my son. He can't hold a job, and so I've done a lot of different things in my life, and I think that's prepared me for a presidency of a university. I don't think many kids grow up saying I want to be a university president. I know I didn't. I wanted to build things, and in some sense I have. I've built an organization and a new university, and we'll get into that more. But as a kid, I liked building things with my hands, and so you start with a PhD and an MBA from Carnegie Mellon, and the expectation is you'll go teach. And so I did that. I went to UCLA and I taught there for a number of years, and the research that I did was about implementation of a IT product called Lotus Notes. And this was in the 90s. And I was approached by a very large consulting company to create a consulting practice around the research that I had done. And so I left academia, and as my colleagues would say, I went to the dark side. I went to consulting and started a practice, traveled the world, as you do with large consulting companies, and got sick of being on the road, frankly, and had an opportunity to come back to central Pennsylvania in the United States, where I had grown up, and raised two small kids, and had the opportunity to start a technology company in 2000 ish. We created one of the world's first learning management systems here in central Pennsylvania. We had household names as our clients, and in the banking and insurance industries, and grew a terrific business. And as part of that, I was approached by the mayor of the city of Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania, about the creation of a new university, one that was focused on science and technology. And this would be the first university in this city, in the city of Harrisburg. And I was intrigued by the idea. So I joined as a consultant, frankly, and helped create a white paper around what would be a new university in the early 2000s that was focused on science and technology. How would that be structured, and what would it be focused on? And was fortunate enough that it became a reality over a period of years. And I joined Harrisburg University, as it became known, in late 2004 as the first chief financial officer. And there were 5 of us, 5 full-time employees. We quickly hired full-time faculty, and started off like any startup business. In 2009 became provost, and then eventually president in 2012. So that's the path, and that's the journey.
No, it's the phase from 2012 2021 is it's quite a story. It's we went through it. I was really amazed at what you've been able to achieve. Before we go into that, the last, say, 8-9 years, if you could just maybe provide some sort of facts and figures about Harrisburg University and focus areas, the mission you have. Just kind of give people a little bit of a background on the school, and then we can dive a bit more into what you've done in the last 9 years.
Right. So today, the early 2021, this academic year, will educate more than 10,000 students, and that's in bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctoral programs, professional development certificates, non-degree programs. We reach all the way back to K through 12 in the United States, called high schools, grades 10, 11, and 12. We provide pathways from secondary schools to higher education, particularly oriented career pathways around information technology and data analytics, which are two strengths of the university. So our focus areas, as our name, Harrisburg University of Science and Technology, implies, are all, as it was called, STEM-oriented programs: science, technology, engineering, and math. So we have programs on the sciences and biotechnology and chemistry, forensics, on the IT side, pretty much anything you can think of: software development, cybersecurity, data analytics is a big part of what we do. Data mining, we do at the graduate level, healthcare informatics. We do in the health sciences generally, nursing programs, pharmaceutical science programs, physical therapy programs are coming next year, and then advanced manufacturing as a relatively new area for the university. And this is think prototyping to rapid development to large-scale commercial production. And then the newest area for the university is advanced agricultural science. So think controlled environment agriculture, high-tech greenhouses, both horizontal and vertical farming are areas for the institution. That ties to work we do in environmental sciences, which is another area. And then finally, we do competitive video gaming, and we do video game development, which ties to 3D modeling and back to some of the other programs that we do. So that gives you a sense of the breadth of things that are offered at Harrisburg University.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. So now let's talk a little bit about the journey from 2012 to 2021, and you've grown the school from, I mean, there are two aspects of it, right? It's the creation of the product for the market, number one, and then it's the recruitment of students. And of course it's been, I mean, what I understand is that you started out with 500 students when you took over as president, and it sounds like, as you said, you're going to educate more than 10,000 this year. So I think it'd be really interesting, and as I also understand it, is that the university has also been key to the revitalization of Harrisburg as a city, which is also kind of an added benefit of that growth. So it'd be really interesting to hear. I mean, start off with more the product, and then we'll come back to how you actually were able managed to recruit that many students. But if we could talk a little bit about the product and how you managed to grow the university that quickly to attract that large student base.
So I'll go back even before 2012 because I think it's instructive. So we had first had students in 2005, and we started with 73 students that first year. And so over the period of time, 2005 to 2012, 7 years, we grew from 73 to 500. Not a whole lot. The United States is a very crowded and competitive higher education market. Pennsylvania itself has more universities than any other state in the United States, except for Massachusetts. So it's a very, very competitive market in Pennsylvania and more broadly across the U.S. We had no brand. We had no following. We had no alumni. We were a brand new startup, and we focused on undergraduate education in a fairly traditional way over the period 2005 to 2012. Beginning in 2012, the realization was we're probably not going to make it as a university continuing on this path, meaning continuing to focus on traditional undergraduate and trying to compete in a very crowded market with the institutions that have been around for, heck, on the other side of Pennsylvania is the University of Penn. It's been around for 300 plus years before the United States was founded. So you have great universities, world-class institutions just down the road from us. Very hard to compete in that market. So we took stock of where we were programmatically, and as you would say, right from the product perspective. And what we had built over that period of time were very high quality undergraduate programs in science and technology, and a few sprinkling of master's degree programs, and a very high quality of faculty. One of the, and maybe we'll get to this later, but I'll bring it up now. As a new university, we struggled to recruit students, and we'll talk about how that's changed over time. But we did not struggle to recruit faculty. It's a really interesting dynamic. Many faculty, particularly senior faculty, who could go anywhere and teach anywhere and do research anywhere, become frustrated with the bureaucracy, the length of time it takes to create change in traditional higher education. And so many of them look for alternatives later in their career. You know, they flirt with the idea of retirement, perhaps, or even changing, you know, careers in some sense, become consultants and leave academia. But so for us, that was a really very fertile way of recruiting world-class, amazing faculty, is to recruit these senior faculty that were frustrated with their current institutions for a variety of reasons. And we, Harrisburg University, even today, present the opportunity to faculty to create a new world, create your own program, come and build something amazing. We'll give you the opportunity to do that. I mean, that's a really very enticing sales pitch when you're able to do that. So we had put together by 2012 this small but really impressive set of senior faculty members, augmented by some new very junior, newly minted PhDs. And so those faculty members, super, as I say, high quality, were able to create then graduate programs, which were the new product for us. And you know, we can, Eric, if you want to, we can talk about then where that led us from a marketing and student recruiting perspective. But that from a product perspective, that was our expansion in 2012, was to start very much focusing on graduate programs and graduate degrees. And you might ask why. Well, the answer is, in an undergraduate world, you have to compete with all of the other amenities. What does housing look like? What are your fraternities and sororities? What sports programs do you have? What's your cafeteria like? What kind of food programs do you offer? What extracurricular activities do you offer? And as a new institution that's career focused, and we remain career focused today, we were unable to compete effectively in the arms race that is around amenities and extracurricular activities. And we had no resources to do that. And frankly, that really isn't part of the mission and the way Harrisburg University is structured. Graduate students, on the other hand, they don't care so much about amenities. They are focused on career advancement and high quality education at an affordable price. That's what graduate students want. They don't care. They're not going to fraternities and sororities. They're not going to football games or basketball games on weekends. They're focused on their work, whether that's research or their professional careers, the beginning of their families. Their attentions are other places that fit better with the focus of Harrisburg University. And so that's why we moved into the graduate market.
Okay, that's so we've talked about, so it's like a two-sided marketplace, right? You have students and you have teachers, and you were able to recruit the teachers very easily. And I guess what I'm kind of hearing you say is they were enticed by being entrepreneurs, having more academic freedom.
Yes.
Which was, so you attract the teachers. That's a good place to start from. You guys had a very focused strategy, graduate programs. You felt that was an area where you could compete and you wouldn't be constrained by these, you know, the on-campus experiences and the sports and that kind of stuff. one thing that would be great to touch on, and maybe you could touch on this in line with, because one of the things I know you've done is you've raised more than $100 million for the health sciences area. But I think one thing that I found very interesting when we spoke earlier was actually how you design your programs. How did you come up with where does the program selection come from? So maybe if you could talk a little bit about how you guys came up and designed the programs, where it came from, and what was the impetus behind these programs, and then maybe weave into the whole approach you've taken with health sciences.
Absolutely. So that touches on a number of, I think, unique aspects of Harrisburg University and things that others might consider as they look around and try to figure out how to grow their institutions or universities or expand. Is, we have a very different faculty model that's very market driven and market focused. And by that, I mean, we use part-time faculty like many other universities. We do not, and I will emphasize, do not follow a traditional adjunct model. We don't even use the term adjuncts. We call them corporate faculty. They are given, these part-time faculty are given the right to vote on academic matters and the design of curriculum after they've taught with us for 27 credit hours. So today we have more a corporate faculty that vote on academic matters than full-time faculty. So if you're an institution and you want to say your programs are tied to the needs of businesses, to the skills and knowledges and directions that industries are moving and particular businesses need, and from a workforce development perspective, so that you as an institution don't become out of step with what business is looking for, what better way than to tie it directly to those businesses? So to have the employees of the businesses and government agencies, in our case, because we sit in a state capital city, design, deliver, work with the students. Our philosophy was, look, a traditional adjunct or part-time faculty comes and teaches at a university, say on a Wednesday. They leave. They're told, don't change this particular course. And they don't think about that university until the next Wednesday when they come back and they teach, whether that's virtually or whether that's face-to-face. We wanted our corporate faculty, our part-time faculty, to be engaged meaningfully in the development, design, building of the university. So today, we have 150, 160 full-time PhDs. Faculty. We have 350 part-time faculty. So, and we treat that all as a faculty of the whole. It's organized as one faculty. And as I say, it's very much directly tied to industry. Yes, we have industry advisory boards as everybody else does. And yes, we convene, industry leaders to opine on the learning objectives of our programs, and we do that. But it's really the corporate faculty and the connections directly to the businesses that drive the creation of our programs. I also note that we're organized around programs. We are not organized in disciplines. So we don't use the D word. We don't have departments, meaning, my observation, our observation, I think, across traditional higher ed is that disciplines form walls and towers and moats, and they shoot at each other, and they have arguments about which discipline is better and which one should be more important. And businesses and industry don't really care about that. That's not the way that the rest of the world is organized, right? It's interdisciplinary in its nature. And so Harrisburg University organized around programs, around market-facing programs that bring together multiple disciplines in each program. And that's the way we're organized. That's the way we think about resources. That's the way we think about marketing. That's the way we think about faculty. That's the way we think about research, is around this very market-driven program approach and structure. And so that leads us to the health sciences work. And so, again, go back historically to 2005 and even 2012, Harrisburg University didn't do anything in health sciences. It's not where we started. It wasn't our initial focus. And in about 2016, I'll say, a group of our trustees came from health systems. And so we're blessed in central Pennsylvania. We have multiple, I'll say, world-class health systems that compete for the market share in central Pennsylvania. And there are three, it depends on how you count it, maybe even four health systems that serve this part of the world. And those health systems are very large systems that happen to overlap here in central Pennsylvania. And so it became clear to us that these health systems had great needs for nurses and for technicians and for nurse practitioners and a variety of workforce needs that numbered in the thousands right here in central Pennsylvania. And yes, there are competing universities that had, for decades, nursing programs or healthcare technician programs, but the market need far outstripped the supply. And it still far outstrips even what Harrisburg University can contribute. And so 2016, we made the decision we're going to implement health sciences programs. We're going to hire world-class nursing faculty, pharmaceutical science faculty, physical therapy faculty, and we're going to build programs to address this very critical workforce need that's in our part of the world, but frankly, it's throughout the world, and certainly throughout the United States. So those programs have been in place now for several years. We're a kind of university that we make a decision 1 week and we start implementing it the following week. So as soon as the decision was made strategically I think it was in an August meeting of the trustees to move in a very large way university-wide into health sciences, we started recruiting faculty in September. And part of what we realized over the next 2 years was that we needed a brand new facility to house all of the health science programs, particularly to create world-class simulation facilities to simulate healthcare settings, to provide experiential education opportunities, hands-on opportunities, if you will. And so in 2018, started the planning, design, land purchase that, as you, Eric, I think indicated, right, culminated in this past year in 2020. We closed on a $100 million bond transaction to fund the construction of a world-class health science, and also advanced manufacturing will be in this new facility. It's in Center City, Harrisburg, and we're excited about what it brings to the city, jobs, economic development, but also the expansion of the university and better connection to the healthcare partners that help drive the programs. But in this case, they're helping design the physical facilities as well. And that bond transaction was the investors in that were, again, household names that you would recognize in terms of investment houses.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that struck me, I just think is impressive, is just you've taken in terms of designing the product, you've taken such a pragmatic approach. It's pure it's market-based. Your programs are based on need, where the jobs are. And I know that one of the things that you're very proud of is the fact that 100% of your graduates end up getting jobs afterwards. So it's a very pragmatic, very nimble, very market-based approach. And the other thing that I think we should discuss, because I think there's interest from our audience in terms of more like promotion, in terms of students and recruiting students. And I think that's also fascinating how you've done that. But before we get to that, it'd be great for you to talk a little bit about pricing, because I think you've made some, I think, some very unique. You've taken a unique approach in terms of pricing in the last years, and I think it'd be interesting for you to talk about that and also how you've managed to take that approach.
Sure. So a part of the growth that we haven't touched on yet that I think is important, and it touches on pricing, Eric, is that back in 2012, 2013, part of the product discussion and soul searching, if you will, was, yes, we're going to move into the graduate space, but what type of graduate students? And that conversation focused on domestic students and international students as just two broad segments, right? We, as I said, struggled to compete in the domestic undergraduate market. And I think our belief was we would continue to struggle in the domestic graduate market, maybe not as much for reasons we've already talked about, but so that led us to really consider the international markets. And again, we're a university that's focused on science and technology. We don't have linguistics programs, and we don't have language faculty. So we made the decision we were going to deliver our programs in English, and we were going to look for markets that, in international markets, where English was not a challenge. And so this led us principally to India as a market. There are lots of others that we've uncovered over time, but that's was our start into the international world. So we, in the early years, marketed throughout India, hired an external firm to help us on ground in India, and we also took efforts to form great relationships with universities and colleges throughout India. And we focused on the technology hubs of India, whether that's Bangalore or whether that's Mumbai or whether that's, elsewhere, Hyderabad as an example. We, again, led with our strength, information technology and data analytics, cybersecurity. And what's occurred over the last many years, or last 5 years at least, is that today we don't recruit on ground internationally, meaning we don't have recruiters that run throughout India or that run throughout China. We recruit international students that are on visas that are in the United States, that have come to the United States to study at other universities. And they hear about Harrisburg University through perhaps our recruiters or through our social media or through some other means or through friends. We get a lot of students through word of mouth. And they decide to transfer from where they are to Harrisburg University. We routinely, so we have 6 starts a year for graduate students. And we routinely get students from, as we refer to it, the other HU, that would be Harvard University. And so, yes, I am saying that we get transfer students that leave Harvard to come to Harrisburg University to pursue a master's degree. And you ask, I get asked all the time, why would somebody do that? And I won't just pick on Harvard. I mean, we get people that transfer from Columbia, from NYU, from University of Alabama and University of Mississippi, and throughout the United States. Universities, great universities, all 50 states have transferred over time to Harrisburg University. Why would somebody do that? The answer is, on one hand, simple, and on the other hand, difficult to achieve. The simple part of it is we have a great product, as we've already talked about, taught by world-class faculty. I would argue our faculty and our programs are every bit as good as a program anywhere, delivered by anybody. That's how good our faculty are. We have amazing connections to industry, as we've already talked, perhaps better than most universities can provide. So again, going back to the interests of a graduate student, they want a great education that leads to a career opportunity. And we provide both and have data to prove that we provide both. And now back to Eric, your question about pricing, and at a price point that's half, if not a third of what you're going to pay elsewhere. And so great product, half the price, job waiting at the end. Why wouldn't you transfer if you're a graduate student is the question, right? So I don't care what business you're in, whether it's higher ed or whether it's fast food or whether it's retail, if you have a superior product at half the price, wrapped with great customer service, you're going to be successful. That's, at a very high level, that's what we've built and that's what we do. And so from a pricing perspective, we have a relatively very small undergraduate population. It's somewhere between 700 and 800 students. Those students, we provide significant scholarship and financial aid support. Part of our mission as Harrisburg University is to provide opportunity to students that otherwise would not have an opportunity to pursue a science and technology career. So for us, that means here in the United States, minority students, students from inner cities, students that don't have the economic means to go to college or university. So we, Harrisburg University, fundamentally allow that to happen. We've not raised our tuition, both at the undergrad and grad level. We've not raised it in 7 years. And again, focusing price to make it affordable and accessible is a key component and driver of what we do at Harrisburg University. The graduate side of Harrisburg University is close to 7,000 students. And those students, we don't provide any support. We don't discount. We don't. Those are full pay graduate students. But as I say, we set our price at about half of what other universities will provide. So just round numbers, right? Our graduate programs, our master's programs are around $30,000, a little more than $30,000 for the master's degree. Compare that to other master's degree programs around the United States that are well in excess of $60,000 or $70,000 or $80,000 US. So our price point is very attractive. And because we don't discount on the graduate side, and because the graduate side of the university is so very large, we're able to subsidize the undergraduate side of the university and provide access to economically challenged students.
Yeah. So I mean, I think one of the things on pricing it's also interesting because obviously you've come to market with a great product at a very good price. And the thing that's also impressed me when we spoke about this earlier is that you haven't raised prices in 8 years, right?
Correct.
You've managed to keep prices constant over 8 year period, which is doubly impressive. Maybe we should just shift gears a little bit because I think there's interest among our audience with how you've gone about sort of the promotion, how you've managed to recruit. You've touched on a little bit of how you guys did in the beginning. You've touched on the fact that you're sourcing a lot of your students, if not all of them, in the US. But perhaps you could talk a little bit about how you've gone about the promotion and sourcing, what channels have worked for you. I think there's great interest in that sort of thing from a number of people in the audience.
Right. So as with any marketing approach or recruitment approach, it's multi-tiered and there are lots of different ways we go about it. The principal ways are, as I say, through using recruiters here in the U.S. that work with large companies. So many of our students, for example, work in the banking industry, whether that's for Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, as I say, household names, and they do analytics type jobs in those companies, or they want to do analytics types jobs, or they work for very large consulting companies, or they work for very large technology companies, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Amazons of the world. And so our recruiters target those companies because they have large workforces. They have large numbers of students, workers that are on visas that are here in the United States. And that works very, very well. We also use social media channels, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's just our own university web presence. We hold events, webcasts kind of like this for students to answer questions. We hold open house days that are obviously now virtual. We use our growing alumni network, which is quite interesting because we have a very small, as you might realize, undergraduate alumni network, but we now have 4,000 graduate alumni that have graduated out of our master's programs. They work in the geographic areas of the United States where we want to recruit. So they work in northern New Jersey or New York City or Boston or Austin, Texas, or San Francisco, Seattle. And so they help recruit. And they're young people, recent graduates of the university that have great things to say and are great ambassadors for the university. So those are the ways that we recruit. We also encourage our students to word of mouth and recruit their friends, and that works really very well. But in order to use word of mouth and existing students or even alumni, what that requires is great customer service and not to behave as many universities where they treat students just as numbers. We do not, right? We help students through the very complex, stressful process that is the United States visa process and immigration process. We help students work through financial challenges that they might have. We work with students with course selection and registration and planning for their academic program. We have a requirement at the university that every student, whether they're graduate or undergraduate, does a major experiential project. So at the master's level, think, dissertation or applied research project. Well, that's a way of really connecting a graduate student, to a group of faculty here at the university and engage them in meaningful work. And often it is work and projects that's tied directly to their job, to where they work. And so they can apply what they're learning in the classrooms right away. And it not be a theoretic exercise, but rather something that helps them in their job today. Well, that's a great way to connect and build relationships with students. So again, if you're going to try to use alumni, or you're going to try to use word of mouth, or you're going to rely on existing students to recruit new students, you have to provide a great experience and great connections and relationship and customer service. I can't stress how important that is. Again, particularly in a graduate world where these are young adults or adults that have customer experiences at world-class places like Amazon or other retailers on a regular basis. And they know what great customer service looks like, and they know what terrible customer service looks like. And we as universities, we have to become collectively much better at customer service and think about it the way other industries think about it, and put in place concierge services and I'm not talking student support from an academic perspective. I'm talking about general service and support of students as other businesses and other industries think about their customers and their clients.
Okay, no, thanks. So we're sort of now I'm going to move a bit to more of the audience questions, and we got probably 30 audience questions in advance. We obviously won't be able to go through all. And then we have another 6 which are also available. I just want to say I'll do my best to sort of in the remaining time to get to at least some of them. But I think one question that was asked was how did you manage growth so that the quality of the student experience and services did not suffer during your growth? What are best practices for growth? That was an audience question. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Great question. As I said, we